Greetings, Butterfly Tribe. Welcome back to The Way You See Me Heart Healing Ministry. I would like to resume with part 5 of healing childhood trauma. Still going to stay true to the verse in 1 Corinthians 13, which states, "When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I reasoned as a child. I behaved as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish matters." Childhood plays a very crucial part in the development of a person. We learn so many different things in that age group that we don't realize will become part of us in our adult lives, both good and bad. I can't speak for everyone else, so I won't do an all-inclusive. When I'm speaking from my own experiences and my own point of view. I'm not going to try to analyze somebody else's reactions to the things that they've experienced in their lives. I can only speak on how it affected me in hopes that if someone can relate, they'll take the message and they'll apply it to their lives. If the message doesn't benefit you in any way and you don't have anyone that you think the message can be shared with, I understand. This message, my ministry, is for a certain group of people that have experienced things that I've experienced, and this is to help them. This is my way of going back, reaching out my hand, and pulling someone else out of the darkness of experiences that I've experienced in my own life. Childhood, like I said previously, for me, I thought I lived a pretty well-rounded life until I entered my teenage years. But looking back, I could see how certain things that I experienced in childhood opened me up, conditioned me to normalize certain things that aren't normal. And I know everybody have their own definition of normal, but in my life, it wasn't normal. It wasn't okay just because it was being done. I remember as a kid, I was very confident in my abilities that had been taught to me. I said previously that my mother was constantly inspiring me. Doing my best was expected of me, and I was encouraged to do my best. That was in every aspect of my life, from school to sports to taking care of my siblings to keeping up my mom's house. Everything that I did, I was expected to do to the best of my ability. That was understood. We used to have this gathering or event in my elementary and middle school years called Field Day. And I can remember even in first grade, as a 5-year-old, which I would have turned 6 in first grade, there was a race. And I don't know if it was the 50-yard dash that we were running, but it was in an open field, and a bunch of kids raced. And I could just remember running, and I always ran really fast. And my mom was screaming on the sidelines. And when I finished, I won the race. And when I finished the race, I remember her telling me that she wasn't even paying attention to the race. Someone standing next to her started screaming, "Who is that little girl? Who is that little girl?" And when she looked, it was me, and I was running, and she was like, "That's my baby." And she started cheering me on. And my mother cheered me on. And through the years, it gave me a confidence about my ability. I never was one to brag or boast about my abilities. It was just this inner strength that I had, that I could do something if I put my mind to it. So it's really nothing to remember. I remember in 3rd grade, my sister, my biological sister from my dad's, by my dad, for some reason, she was held back. She's exactly a year and 3 days older than I am. So in school, she was a year ahead of me. And I remember in 3rd grade, which would have been her 4th grade year, she was held back from 4th grade and remained in 3rd grade. So she and I were in school in the same grade from that time and eventually would graduate together. But in 4th grade, I was diagnosed with a speech impediment. They said that I could not, my S's weren't clear, that I would slur them. So instead of saying, like you probably could hear me making myself say the sound, but it would more so come out like a sh instead of a s sound. And it's still hard for me to do. I think it would, several things played in a child's being able to pronounce words, and part of it actually has to do with your teeth, your tongue, the way you hear it, a lot of stuff. So from 4th grade through my middle school years, there was an hour and a half that I would go 2 to 3 times a week and trained with a speech pathologist, and until this day I remember her, Miss Daigle. And she was a sweetheart. She never made me feel less than or that I was doing something wrong. And in my mind, until they told me the problem, until they pointed it out, I never even paid attention to it, because I come from a very Frenchy talking family, and we would say words like share and shy, and so in my family it was never pointed out, because that's how we spoke. And that's on my dad's side, very, very Frenchy, French Indian descent. And so I never felt like I was saying the word wrong. And that was it. 4th grade. 4th grade, have 2 distinct memories that I remember of. One being my biological sister and I fought one sister for another sister. And I know that sounds crazy now, but it's true. I grew up in the house with my sister and brother by my mom. And I told you I was always taught to protect them. And my sister and 2 brothers, she grew up with her mom and our dad. And I remember her, I told you color was always a thing, and my sister is really, really fair complected. And for some reason, my mother's daughter is dark complected. My father's other daughter, is fair complected. And she said the words, it was always a color thing. You, black, whatever. And I went to defend the baby sister. And she told my dad's daughter, my older sister, tells me, "You're not my sister. You're just my daddy's child." And it's crazy because I was in 4th grade, so 9, 10 years old, maybe. And even when she said it, it crushed my heart. First of all, I always felt like I didn't belong. And it crushed my heart. But I ended up fighting her. And so I used to say that I fought her for my baby sister, but I think her words hurt so much that I reacted. I acted out of hurt that she told that to me, that she didn't connect with me as her sister. I was just her daddy's child. Until today, she doesn't remember. She says she doesn't remember telling me that, but she did, and it broke my heart. And I knew even then, this is the wisdom that was in me as a child. Even though the words came out of her mouth, I knew then that she had heard that an adult said that. What adult, I don't know, but I knew an adult had said those words. That's not such and such daughter. That's not your sister. That's your daddy's child. And that was that. The other memory of 4th grade is when I met my best friend. This lady is my bestie until today. She and I have been friends since the age of 10 years old. She was new to our town. She moved here with her family. And I remember meeting her. I remember the day on the playground where we stood before school and she was by herself. And we, 10 years old is the awkward phase. And I approached her and started talking, and she and I became besties instantly. So from that memory, Denise and I have gone through a whole bunch of things that tested our friendship, but she is a friend, one of few friends that I have. And she introduced me to basketball. She had a basketball goal in her yard, and so when I would go over to her house, we would shoot basketball. And her dad noticed that I could shoot. And she was in this thing that our city hosted called Little Dribblers. And so he asked if I wanted to play Little Dribblers. I said I was interested. He spoke to my parents about it. And at the age of 9 and 10, I was on a 9 and 10-year-old team. She and I became teammates. And we became two hell of a basketball players from the age of 10 until we graduated. You'll hear more about that later. But we were called the Twin Towers in Little Dribblers and won 2 Little Dribbler state championships on that team. My sister, by the way, was also on that team with a group of friends. So my sister and I were always in each other's presence. We played t-ball together. I remember t-ball, I had to be 6, 7 years old, and my brother, who is also their sibling, we all 3 played baseball. All 4 of us played t-ball together. And I remember being on the pitcher's mound and being hit, like the ball was hit and it hit me in my nose. And I remember her mom running out of the stands and was like, "My baby, my baby, my baby," which was crazy because my mom wasn't too fond of that. So yeah, my childhood, like I told you, was pretty normal outside of the chaotic experiences that flooded because of decisions made by the adults in my life. It ruined relationships, formed relationships. So now we're up to about the 5th grade, and I failed to mention that through all of this, I was active in church. Bible Bowl team, I was very active in church, still learning about the Messiah, still forming a relationship in church, still learning about the goodness of scripture, still learning my foundation, being rooted and grounded in the word. Just overall what I thought to be okay childhood. And I'm gonna end with that because we're almost at 15 minutes already. So I just want to tie into some things that kind of help form who I am, some memories that are very essential to the forming of me not ever feeling like I fit in. And I had 2. My mother had 9 siblings. My father had 9 siblings. Both of them grew up in the same city. So I had a huge family dynamic, but never, I felt the love there, but I never felt like I belonged any place, either side. I didn't feel that I belonged. And that's that. So I'll be back for part 6, which goes into my middle school years. I hope I'm not boring you. I promise you, all of this will tie in and connect, and you'll understand why I'm sharing it with you. Thank you again. I pray you have a blessed day.